Hello, everybody, and welcome here today to another Kerfuffle showcase. I am delighted to have Mike and Leon here of Agent Response. How are you guys?
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Good, looking all very relaxed. Probably because you've got so much time back on your hand because of a certain prop tech solution you're going to be talking to us about now. Gents, thanks very much for joining us. This is a slightly unusual one. It's one of the ones that I love because as Mike has firmly got his banners to the mast there, you obviously stride both sides of the business, don't you, Mike, in terms of obviously running Not Dayton and also having off the back of this out of some real world experiences, creating with Lee and here, your co-founder, the Agent Response Toolkit. Just before we kick off, could you just give a bit of context about how the sort of formative idea of this came around, and maybe as well just highlighting the real world frustrations that you were experiencing that made you think that it was necessary?
Yeah, it all came about in lockdown, really. So we furloughed the bulk of our front end sales and lettings team and just kept the managers on. And we did that with the intention of getting a lot of kind of good quality rainy day jobs done, seeing it as actually a unique opportunity for us to kind of get ahead, if anything. So the problem was that plan all went to pot quite quickly when in one of our offices on the very first morning of lockdown, we had 200 email inquiries for rental properties.
Yeah.
So it drew to our attention, instead of just kind of shrugging our shoulders going, well, that's lettings, isn't it? When you've got your top paid staff dealing with it, it kind of focuses the attention a little bit more. So that's when I got in touch with Leon and said, look, we've got to do something to automate this because this is crackers.
And you got the band together.
Spot on.
You got band together, and what I like about this is, in terms of a punchy headline, never miss an opportunity again. I'm all over this. So as you know, Mike, as I've missold to you a number of times, I've made myself incredibly unpopular with people. But I think the people who despise me most are the marketing managers, marketing directors, because for a long period of time, even before this crazy market we're in now, I've been making the point that they're not short of leads. That what they are absolutely short of is the capability of dealing with those leads effectively and getting to the hot ones in the quickest possible time. Why, as you know, I got a little bit kind of Willy Wonka style when I saw your proposition was, it really offered up the solution to that issue, I think. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think the dogma is that all leads are extremely valuable and have to be, and they're all going to make you money, but the reality is they're not. And under the slightest bit of scrutiny, which we've brought in, which is, done very politely and nicely, you find out very quickly which the good ones are and which the good ones aren't, really.
Yeah. And how has this kind of progressed from those formative ideas? Has there been many kind of evolutions along the way as you've kind of dug into this, or was this the grand vision and it was just nailed from day one?
Leon and I have a weekly call where we go through our plans and ideas. I'm sure Leon dreads it because there's always loads more stuff that we think we can do and keep adding to it. So yeah, we've got quite an exciting roadmap.
Is that the communal we there, Mike? Is that you doing sort of, I've got another great idea, and Leon just does the sort of...
I think that's the good part from it, because it's come from Mike and his role within Not Dayton. It's it's real world elements that we're trying to solve here. So each week we're talking about real problems that Mike and others are facing and how we can perhaps answer those in a better way.
Okay, cool. So just give us an overview of how this is then delivering that solution through to agents.
In what way, sorry, Sam?
Well, just in terms of what the challenge that is there, as we've highlighted, is too many leads. What is it that Agent Response actually does to help solve that issue?
Very simply, what happens with Agent Response is when the lead comes in, it's an autoresponder, which is entirely customizable. So a customizable message gets sent out to the lead as it comes in. It asks them to click a link, answer a few more questions. Again, the questions are completely customizable. You can have tougher questions, lighter questions, however you want to fix it. And those people who respond and answer all the questions in the way that we would like, they're the hot leads. And those people that don't get back to you, well, in fairness, we've got back to them straight away with a personalised message saying, "Dear Mr. Smith, thanks for your inquiry about 123 Pigeon Street. A few more questions and we'll move on its way." And Leon, we've also built a follow-up as well, haven't we? So kind of 24 hours later, we can be in touch, say, look, if you haven't had a chance to already fill out the form, here it is again, because we'd love to hear from you. So they're given every opportunity, really.
But it's that important point of, you've got to prove to us you're serious now, because it's such a fast moving world, and everything else is that, just by doing this little thing, you are able then to be given essentially the VIP service.
Yeah, and it's perhaps an imperfect solution, if that makes sense. But the benefits of it are, if you are serious, you just answer a few very simple questions, and our service is really good because we can get back to you straight away. Whereas historically, we didn't know the difference between Jones and Smith. So we were chasing everybody. And if you were a hot lead, it might be a day or two before we got back to you, just because we were so busy drowning in all the others and leaving messages, etc.
And famously, speed of response is an absolutely critical factor in conversion of leads, isn't it? So by definition, if they weren't a tire kicker before, they were afterwards, because actually they've moved on.
Correct. Yeah, that's very fair. Everybody loses in terms of how it's currently set up, which is part of what we love about what we've built.
And I think you've been a bit unfair yourself, if you don't mind me saying, in terms of an imperfect solution, because what it is it's a solution that's dealing with the reality of the situation, isn't it? Yes, we would all like to think that every call, every lead, wherever it came from on the platform, gets dealt with a phone call, and you can set that up as your principle within the business. But it literally is totally, in the marketplace we're in, and I think in pretty much any marketplace, totally unrealistic, isn't it? Cool. Okay, so give us an idea. You've got some really already, high-profile agents. And I was looking on your website. We've spoken about people like Bradley's, Miles and Bars, Sarah Maines. These are not companies that would, just would try something if it wasn't really delivering for them. What's the feedback that those guys give to you about what they like about Agent Response?
They love it because it works. And you plug it in. That there is a dashboard behind the scenes, but as far as the day-to-day staff, they don't have anything to do with it. And it just runs and it works, and it's completely customizable. So all those brands have got slightly different tweaks and nudges in terms of how they set it up. And Leon, there's no legacy issues in terms of what we built, has there?
No. And I think what's nice about it is that, time saving is often one of those phrases that's just thrown around. This software does this, that software does that. But as soon as they've got it set up, within the next 24 hours, they can instantly see the impact that it has, right on the team, right on the staff. So, and that's been sort of mentioned in their reviews about us and their comments back. So yeah, we're just getting really good feedback.
We'll get onto some of those later. There's some really key jump out reviews there out of the many you've got on the site already, even though you've just launched all of them 5-star, which is fantastic to see. Liam, when you described it there as completely customizable, did you have a little twitch, or because I've been caught out before with that kind of promise on the customization, and the problem with that with an audience is if you do lay that open, sometimes they can get quite silly in terms of the stuff there. How difficult is it to get onboarded with your solution? Is it a deep project? Does it take a matter of weeks? Is it a matter of days? Give us a flavour of how people actually get to use it once they've decided it's the right solution for them.
It's really quite a short onboarding process. The shortest normally for perhaps an agency that's just got one office, it's probably about 10 minutes initial setup. And then letting the portals know of the integration. So the wait's normally just with the portals, and then based on their customization requirements, we normally turn that around within 24 hours as well. So if people require some customizations, obviously we've got quite a wide scope of changes we can make for them. Branding, wording. There are very few limitations that put in place, but it enables us to cater for those agencies that are perhaps more rural and need different types of questions to those, perhaps in more urban areas. And even the larger agencies that we work with that perhaps have, up to 30, 40 offices, their setup time, we're talking, perhaps a week in total, just tuning more, a bit more fine grain the sort of questions that they're using and the infrastructure we're going to put in place.
That's excellent. So, I mean, that really is a quick period, and we should put people's concerns to bed, because this all sounds fantastic as well. But it sometimes, as we go through, people start thinking, "Oh God, that sounds really expensive." But am I right in thinking the price point starts from it's only $19.99, isn't it? I know you've got different packages and plans here, but again, this is not one of those ones that you're going to be thinking about at the end of the month. Oh bloody hell, that's that's going out on the direct debit, is it?
No.
Sorry, go on, Mike.
No, say no. We've pitched it as economically as we can. So we want it to be a no-brainer with relatively little kind of drain on your mental resources to think whether you would or should do it. And you plug it in and it runs, and it's based on a usage model.
And that element where it's kind of out of the box and works is really important as well, isn't it? Because there's another, great swathe of prop tech solutions in particular, but other suppliers that, yes, they will work really well, but they do take a lot of, a lot of fiddling, customization, configuration. So people are naturally these days, well, they are time poor, as we've just highlighted more than anything. So to be able to get benefits, not months and years down the line, but in a matter of days and weeks, again, nice to have, isn't it?
Yeah, that's part of the beauty about it. It's just set up and run. We get a lot of information from all the agents we work with, so we put those best practices into the forms that we're using. So if someone wants to use a default, we've got some great advice for them, or if they want to customize it more, they can just run with that.
And one of the things we were talking about offline that just blew my mind in a nice simple statement was your point there, Mike, in terms of talking about 80% of rental leads lose you money.
Absolutely.
When you hear that stated like that, that's a real eye opener, isn't it? Just in terms of identifying why something like this is so needed.
Yeah, agents have a very difficult job because we are dealing with, it's not spam, but we're dealing with really poor quality leads on a board. And I'm not knocking the portals, far from it, but on a pretty much an industrial scale. And if you see a lot of agents who kind of exit the industry, it's because they've chased all of them and they haven't got the ability to just pause, ask a few qualifying questions, and then go, right, okay, so I can help you. Let's off we go. So it's just helped us, save time, raise standards, and everybody wins, really. So yeah.
Well, if you can hit it on those two dual important things, raise standards, save time, you're doing well, aren't you? And again, there. And so you must be getting a lot of traction from people, because although they are very busy at the moment, being able to offer that solution in this marketplace as we are is top of the list, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, it's always been an issue, especially on the letting side. And indeed on the sales as well, to be fair, but it's never been more acute than in the current market. So yeah, it is timely in that sense. And
give us a flavour, because again, I think what we were talking about before is obviously the main, given how fast the market is, lettings was the obvious first place to start. But actually, you've already started. Has it started rolling out, or have you started customising it for that marketplace?
Yeah, on the sales side as well. Yeah. So we built it and we've rolled it out for sales as well. So we've spent a small fortune over the years with our good friend, mutual friend, Julian O'Dell. So I've compiled one of his training sessions effectively, motivations, ability, needs, into the sales form. So the quality of qualification of lead for people wanting to go on our priority list, if they think they're getting something out of it, they'll answer whatever questions you ask, which makes it fantastic from a referral point of view.
It really is. It's great. Well, big fan of Julian, obviously, and everything he does there. I think we've got a couple of slides, haven't we, in terms of all the screenshots to be able to show it here. So
go for it.
Let's just have a look here. So I'm just going in now. First and foremost, this is into just people feel very familiar with, obviously, the portal listing on here. So what do we need to go from here then, Mike?
Basically, how simple it is to send a lead in if you're a member of the public. So if you were to go to the request details button at the bottom, Simon, if you just click the green bar, click it once, click it twice. You might need to populate it, Simon. So just put your name and stuff like that. But if you sent one recently, all that will be pre-populated.
Yeah.
So it's remarkably easy to do.
See, I'm not on the property on the ladder enough, am I?
No, clearly not.
There we go. Set UK there. I'm going to get loads of stalkers now. So Yeah.
So,
Just send that there.
yeah, click send.
Oh,
Right move are getting fussy.
yeah, as if they care. Right, has that done it? There we go. What's going on there? Oh God, they're trying to get me. I'll just send that there. There we are. I've just annoyed all of the Manchester ones. Yes, that's fine. Okay. So that's sent through that request then, yeah?
Yeah. So because we know your name and which property you're inquiring about, in your inbox of that email account,
Yeah.
you've just received an email. There's a second or two's delay, but you should have it by now.
I've got it in, yeah.
There you go. So, dear Mr. Whale, many thanks for your inquiry about 123 Pigeon Street. Please click on the link to, answer a few more questions, and that takes you through to our form. And
Okay.
the tone of voice in the initial message is completely customizable, and the actual questions themselves completely customizable as well.
Okay, and is that on the next tab we were talking about?
So yeah, that's an insight into one of our offices. So just for context, the Telford Lettings branch has got about 10 houses to let at any one point in time. We've got one member of staff who deals with front end lettings. So we've turned, forgive my maths, but we'll call it 700 and something leads into 200 completed forms.
And that's such a different volume of manageability, isn't it? That's just so much changes that out that you would, and many people do, just throw your hands in the air on the top figures there, but down below you've got the ability to deal with that.
Yeah, the problem that agents have really is because there's so many leads coming in the top, which is great. They don't have the time to deal with the hot ones which are at the bottom because they're too busy dealing with inquiries rather than actually letting houses. So this, from a workload point of view, it's the 80-20 principle really. And Will, and his name is Will, he actually gets to focus his time on renting houses as opposed to leaving messages with folk.
And I'm guessing there's got to be there's all sorts of different reasons for wanting to do this, but actually a real soft benefit here is just how much happier staff are going to be, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're not being waterboarded with leads. I mean, if your job description was to send 1,000 emails a month that very few people respond to, it's not a great career prospect. And in the nicest possible way, when you go to your boss for a raise, it's quite difficult for them to agree with you if there's no money to back it up from the results side of things. So, we can actually get our guys and girls focused on the £100 tasks rather than the £10 tasks, really.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? That most dollar productive of activities as well, is being able to do that. Okay, cool. And what's on the next one?
So that gives you an idea of our phone channel. So on the email side of things, Leon assumed me for saying this, but it's quite easy to copy, really. But on the telephone side of things, we feel this is our real USP. And it was perhaps, the insight that we had as frontline agents when looking in the back end of the portals in terms of the volume of leads. We were probably getting 2 emails for every 1 phone call. So an email is relatively straightforward because they email you, you email them back, and if they don't respond, well, that's in old money of agency. But on the letting side of things, the rental phone calls take significantly longer than the sales calls do. So we've set up the same system again where we've integrated the agent response forms with the telephone. Basically we've converted in the last 30 days, as you can see there, 353 phone calls have been converted straight into 69 completed forms. And again, we've only got about 10 houses to let. So that is a huge time saving. And like I say, the serious applicants get a far better customer service because we get straight back to them. Again, the staff aren't just fielding inane calls. And from a higher level point of view, as a business owner, it's a hell of a lot of shoe leather we've saved.
Is there one of the most demonstrable points then because of that, and it stops the teams from being purely reactive to getting some time back to being able to be proactive and more, more constructive, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with my not Dighton hat on, my personal feeling is that whilst the market has been very good for everybody, we've massively outperformed it.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Getting a bigger piece of the pie is the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So let me just close that down there, and then we've got this reporting, which is, I take it, in the back office part of the system, is it?
Correct. Yeah. So, Leon, you talk about where we're at to with this.
Yes. So as part of people's accounts, we store key data, and basically we track how many leads are coming through from the different portals, and then the simple calculation of how many people are converting the forms. It's a good estimate, or Mark and the standard say what a good lead is.
Yeah.
And in this example, so this is real data from Not Dighton's Telford office. It brings a bit of clarity to what you're actually getting from the portals. So you can see here that Rightmove is conversing at 30%.
Yeah.
And with other agents, we see other similar statistics around that area. Zoopla can be similar as well. But the interesting fact is with on the market, the fact that it's converting at between 13 to 18%. We see a range depending on months, lots of elements there. But the cost comparison between the portals, it changes your focus on what you're getting from each. I mean, Mike, you can probably talk more about in terms of cost.
Yeah, I've changed my tune on the market, because before we had agent response, it was literally a 13% chance when a lead came through that actually you could do anything with it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if you look at the actual volume of leads, they kind of level peg with Rightmove, which is great. But now I don't have to spend any excess shoe leather chasing the rubbish ones. So if you start doing the maths in terms of, yes, on the market only converts at, say, half the rate that Rightmove does, but it's a quarter of the cost as well. And because we've automated the front end, for the sake of argument, a Rightmove lead's costing me a tenner, but an on the market one's only costing me a fiver now. So it starts to make sense.
It would really stop you, wouldn't it? Just questioning your gut feel on this, because your staff members, I'm guessing, if they were coming in this space, is broadly speaking, again, the same from Rightmove and OTM, so there's everything else. But as you said, at their core, they would say actually a few of those are, a large number of those are wasted. But what that's showing is there's still obviously the gold nuggets in there, the Glengarry, Glen Ross leads, as it were, locked away. And as long as you can prioritise getting to them again, you've got a really powerful solution.
Spot on, absolutely. Everybody wins.
How is this? I'm just totally off there. This is just for portals. Can you do it from other digital sources as well? There should be no reason why you couldn't do it from other digital sources at all, is there?
Yeah, so we work with agents' websites as well, if that's what you mean. And
Well, I was just thinking as well, if they did campaigns that were, I don't know, landing pages and things like that, they could, essentially anything that is a web page, you said portal, their own website or landing page could be subjected to the same, obviously, service that you're providing here with agent response.
Yeah, so we have special links that we give to customers so they can link it into their website and other campaigns, social media campaigns, things like that, so that everyone's then flow through the same process and they're able to have this balanced automation to pull out those golden leads.
Yeah, so this whole reporting thing really just twists that ROI argument slightly round on its head, doesn't it, from what the raw stats would have told you originally?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The interesting point in terms of the big data that we've got is the actual agent's own website is the number one. That's where the best leads come from. And there's a lot of trade press, as we were discussing earlier, in terms of agents and using their data. Everything that we've got supports that as well. So the agent's website, that's where it's at, really.
The agent website companies knocking on your door tomorrow, Mike, for these anonymized stats. That's good. Well, and it's only what all of us kind of suspected, again, gut feel thought, wasn't it? But you're able to put context around that. And as we all know, the key to marketing is doubling down on the bits that are giving you actual extra value. So with that extra information in hand, make your website as good as it can possibly be, and probably invest a bit more into SEO and the other ways of making more stuff hit it.
Spot on. Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. And then we've got here, this is one of the forms, I take it.
Yeah, so this is on the sales side of things. This is one of the forms. So the lettings form, people can go to the Knock Dighton website, to be fair, and download one of the lettings forms. But the plumbing is basically there. So with what we built on the lettings, I said to Leon, look, come on, Leon, surely we can do something with the sales in one of our weekly meetings. So again, the questions are all like, it's a Julian O'Dell training script. This is,
you can see it in the data, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in the process of building some deeper integrations with this. So, for instance, if you start filling it out, Simon, because it won't let you onto the next page. So, if you say, how soon you're thinking of moving, so if you click that,
I'm going to be hot.
Then if you're an investor, well, that's great to know, because we run a lettings business, so I'd like to put you into that lead nurture. If you're a developer, grand, we do land and new homes, so we'd like to talk to you about that. And we send them on that journey. Again, first-time buyers, growing families. There's loads of referral options in there, financial services, conveying, etc. If you're a member of RAN, if you're relocating, well, there's a RAN lead for you. Another. So if we go on to the next page, this is where we
just
see.
By there,
yeah. Click on number 2. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. So what's the situation with your own property? So all the solid questions. It's interesting, actually, if you ever do a mystery shop, it's amazing how brief the phone calls are, funnily enough. And I had a relatively senior on the market person talking to me at Knock Dighton, and he was blown away by the amount of time our staff spent on the phone. It was like double what the industry average was. But it wasn't that long, if I'm honest. So I think from a business owner's point of view, making sure that all the leads are properly qualified is quite a challenge, because everybody is so busy.
Yeah.
So within this, we're asking them if they need a mortgage. We're asking them if they need a solicitor. We're asking them whether they're a landlord or not, a la Stephen Brown.
Yeah.
So, and with our deeper integrations, if they click the right buttons, this is our roadmap, then they can be sent on the right journey. And our guys and girls on the front line, it's a really simple conversation, because it says very clearly here that Simon Well needs a mortgage. So that'll be a large part of our conversation when we give you a ring and actually get you qualified.
Just to be clear, that certainly is my home in Manchester before your team start trying to get me.
Not looking to downsize yet, are you, Simon? So.
Okay.
And then it's mandatory fields, as you can see, so you wouldn't be able to get on page 3. Yeah. So we as a business, and by that I mean with my Knock Dighton hat on, we've set ourselves a target of 10 to 15% of all our revenue coming from referrals. And we incentivize our staff to get referrals, and we incentivize them quite well. But they've got the easiest job in the world, really, because I think if you go on to the next slide, I've got some stats there.
This one here, yeah? Yeah,
you got it. So here's one of our office which had, say, 250 leads have come in on the sales side of things, and 164. So when we're talking about lettings, it's about keeping perhaps 80% of the people out.
Yes.
On the sales, I want 100% of them in if I can.
Yeah.
And 164 of them have said, look, many thanks for the inquiry. It's all gone into the CRM, but actually, I'm more than happy to answer more questions if I can get on your priority list.
Yeah.
So as you can see, from a target's point of view, our Ludlow office has no problem getting financial services and conveyancing leads, because they've got 164 of them there, and they haven't spoken to anyone yet.
Yeah, it's a wonderful human emotion around scarcity, isn't there? And just kind of feeling like you've got to do it. And what is that? I mean, that's an extremely high percentage of those as well, isn't it? As you said, so you don't want to be losing them off there. And arguably, still the other ones who haven't done that probably would have just been wasting your time anyway.
But the original lead will still go through to the CRM, so they'd still be dealt with. But the ones who would fill in the additional form on the sales side, we've got a much richer information about them, and we can have a much more sensible conversation about what your actual situation is. And if it says you've already got a mortgage but you haven't got a solicitor yet, well, we can focus. I don't need to spend too much time qualifying the mortgage side of things, because I know the answer. But let's find out more about the solicitor. So, we can recommend that for you. Oh, that's really useful. Thank you.
And the thing that pisses people off a lot, isn't it, is where they keep filling in information time and time again, and it never seems to be remembered and never action. So yes, okay, you've filled in this information, which takes a few seconds extra, but actually it does that whole proactive point of being able to deliver that better level of customer service is what's coming into play here.
Spot on, yeah. So from my philosophy point of view, I mean, with my Knock Dighton hat on, we won double gold in the EA Masters for both sales and lettings very recently. So we take this really seriously. So everything we're gearing towards is like raising standards and empowering the negotiators to do a good job. And by having better quality information rather than just the first and last name, we can have a much better conversation with people and just a better agency for it, really.
Excellent. And we've spoken about this on other panel shows, haven't we, Mike? And as I said right at the beginning, what I love about this is this hasn't happened in an ivory tower. This has happened, at the cold face of what's going on in the offices, and that solution has come out. So it's that kind of it's that PropTech 3.0, isn't it, in terms of agents solving their own needs. Their own challenges. So whether that's you here or it's Christian Byfield and his depository, all these businesses that are coming around, having being able to find wonderful people like Leon here that can actually help out and deliver that, it's quite an exciting period, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it, Leon? Because I come with problems and Leon is like, well, I wasn't really aware that was a problem, but if you want it solving, these are the building blocks you need. So it works rather well, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, me and Mike have worked together for nearly 10 years now on various different projects, and it's good from our side, working together, creating a solution that answers the real need rather than just the perceived need, and then being able to add to that journey.
But that would have been so awkward there, Leon, if you'd said there it's been really difficult working with him. That would have been, it would have made great TV.
I'll tell you that after the show.
I like the idea that Mike walks through the door and then gives you a club around the head. Okay, no, that's absolutely great in terms of there. So if we go on to the next slide. So this is again, I think, one of the key features you were talking about, wasn't it, guys? That that you've gone down, like many people are looking at the moment. There's an absolutely monster out there in the wider tech world called Zapier, if I'm saying it, I don't know if I was saying that one right, that has formed out of what we will still recognise in our little world of estate agency. How the bloody hell do you get things integrating with each other? And as far as I can see, they've made the best stab at it. So am I right in thinking that your thinking is by working with them and providing the integration, anyone then that has Zapier integrations can just hook into what you want?
Yeah. Exactly, and it takes minutes to do integrations, really. And for me, I think, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot in the trade with regards to agents using their data. And one of the biggest challenges agents have got is the data goes into their CRM and they're stumped in terms of how they get it out, because CRMs aren't necessarily the best marketing platforms. So whether you can pick your poison, really, whether that's kind of MailChimp on the one end of the spectrum all the way up to kind of HubSpot or something similar on the other. You can just plug it in, off we go, and all of a sudden, you've got access to your own data for your marketing campaigns and such like. So it's really simple, and we're building more triggers as we go. And what it's done for us is, if we can think it, we can now build it. And that's almost as a layperson, really, because Zapier is so simple and intuitive to use.
And so that comes from the biggest monster of all out there in the CRM world, the likes of Salesforce, who again have standard Zapier integrations, right through to people ourselves, the good people down at Desres, who have, they had their own open APIs, but they realized that integrating with Zapier as well gave a whole load more scope, didn't it?
Spot on. Yeah. So there's over 3,000 different apps in Zapier alone. So, if I rang Leon and said, right, Leon, can you integrate with all 3,000 of those? It'd take a decade to even do the first 10%. So the fact that at the click of a button, pick your poison, it's up to you, off we go. Fantastic. Great.
That's absolutely great. And what does it give you then, I suppose, Leon, as well, going forwards? Does that I suppose then that all your coding then delivers actual proper enhancements, what an agent would have, rather than, what in the past it would have had to have been around integration. This kind of absolves you of a large degree of that responsibility, doesn't it?
I think it just opens it up. As Mike said, it just gives freedom to the agents to access and work with their data to do more with it if they choose to. And for that integration to be a simple process rather than weeks of planning and meetings and technical jargon. It simplifies the whole process.
Excellent. Excellent, good, very exciting. And then I think we got and this was the buyer and seller's property information one. So talk us through what we're looking at here, Mike.
Yeah, so everything you've seen so far, we can sell you today. This we can't. This is our kind of roadmap for our next stages, because again, the plumbing's basically there. If you've read Atul Gawande's checklist manifesto, everything's a checklist, really, isn't it?
Yes.
And as the forms, we've effectively turned all the forms into checklists. So if I'm going to get on my little high horse about raising standards in agency, I think there's all the problems in the UK property market are pretty straightforward, and they could be solved with a relatively short A4 sheet of paper and the Prime Minister signing it, really. But that's never going to happen. So I think we as agents can solve 80% of the problem. I think trying to solve 100% of the problem is a recipe for disaster. But the two things that we can control as agents is, first of all, nothing hits the portals, marketing, anything until you've filled out all the paperwork, which you've done digitally, as far as, the BASPI form, so buyers, sellers, property information form, which is all of the questions that, any reasonable person could, would and should know about their own property, or indeed may even ask if they're purchasing another. So from a customer experience point of view, it's kind of lose-lose at the minute, because the typical viewing, a member of the public comes, they meet the agent, they ask them simple questions, the agent doesn't know the answers, the member of the public goes, well, he doesn't know anything, why are they getting paid so much money? Everybody loses, really. Whereas if the agent's in a position, actually, we've got all the information, and I'll send you the link, it's on the website, wherever we need to store it, there we go. And also you've got your vendors who are a little bit more invested, a little bit more serious, and they've got all the answers to the questions when they get to the legals stage, rather than suddenly doing all the paperwork, 6 weeks after the contract got sent out, and the sales memo. So we, as a bit with my knocked item hat on, we're in the process of insisting that nothing hits the marketing until we've got the answers to all these questions, and we're able to automate that, rather than have the staff kind of relying on, sending out forms and scanning them in and generally kind of doing a lot of messing around. So that's one half of the equation.
Really nice.
And the other half of the equation is actually in terms of taking offers. So it amazes me so if you go on to kind of the next slide, it amazes me in the industry how we basically play talking telephones over, hundreds, if not millions of pounds worth of offers.
Yeah.
So my philosophy is, look, Simon, this is a wonderful conversation, and yes, I think that figure you've got a really good chance of getting it, but I can't put it towards my client until you filled out this form. So and then if you were to fill the form out, there's a signature on the back end of it.
So we go down there.
Yeah, so you can't get to page 3, unfortunately, until you filled it all out. But moral of the story is, it's not a legally binding signature, but if you want to think it is, that's fine. So where I'm coming from is, I'm saying, right, if all my vendors are legally prepared, and if all my purchasers have given me an offer in writing using their words, not mine. So if we're over the phone, and you ask me a straight question, if I've got cash, I'm not lying, am I? But I don't know how I can put that on that form. And you not kind of go, I think we've got a problem here. So at which point I've got to say, well, yeah, I have got some cash, but I'm also going to need a mortgage and sell my house. So the art of agency is in the negotiation, but the science is, look, you just got to fill the form out to get to base camp, really.
And as long as you preempt that, communicate that effectively, the vast majority of people are absolutely fine with it, aren't they? I think the other thing is, and you've done a really good job here, Neil and Mike, with this, it does look, I don't know why I'm surprised, but it looks really, really clean, concise. It's almost like it is begging to be filled out if you get the. I'm not quite sure why it looks quite so clean and everything else. But that's quite important, isn't it? Because a lot of the time I've seen, even some quite big players doing the DocuSigns, the Adobe EchoSigns, it does feel like you're entering into a legal agreement to sell your soul or something like that. This is just feels like it's proactively encouraging you to fill in stuff to help yourself out.
Yeah, and it's got to be easy, because we want people just to fill it in the first place. But so things like making it much sure it's mobile compliant and elements like that just go a long way to just taking them 2 minutes and they're done it. It's done.
And what would you, are you getting ideas back from agents in terms of other areas that they see this being used as well? Or is this going to just keep kind of developing ever onwards with the kind of forms filling that can be catered for?
Definitely, yeah. We've got a roadmap back into lettings again, and pretty much at every, like I say, if you're going to do things more than once, like I say, it's a process and it's a checklist. So if we can put a questionnaire in there that needs populating, that is pre-formatted, we can raise standards. If you've got multiple branches, you've got continuity, and if we can outsource red tape and actually empower our salespeople to be, top paid, top class salespeople, and all the admin is basically automated, then everybody wins really, because the public will have a better experience with agents because they've got the answers to the questions and they've got the time to deal with them as well.
Well, I'm shamelessly nicking outsource red tape as my new favourite phrase. That's a great one to we should all be doing that any opportunity we can do, shouldn't we?
Totally. Well, we've all seen Roger Martin Fagg's webinars about the employment market going forward, and it's going to be a challenge. So we've got to automate that, haven't we?
Absolutely is. Well, look, that's really good. Thank you. It gives so much more context when we can obviously see that as well. I mentioned at the beginning that you've obviously had a whole host. Look, you can see there your 5-star reviews based on those 21 reviews in there. Great names. Richard Taylor, many people will know. Richard James, absolutely fantastic ones. I'm not going to read through all of these. We're just having a flavour of some of these. I saw this one here from Graham Murphy over at Sarah Mains, jumped out at me. We've been using agent response now for over a month and have found that our viewing to let agreed ratio has improved considerably. Reducing the time spent dealing with unqualified leads has allowed the department to be proactive in seeking. In fact, I didn't realise it when I said proactive earlier. I clearly just nicked it after reading this. But that does, whether it's my point reiterating his or vice versa, that proactive element comes through, doesn't it? Time and time again there.
Spot on.
Game changer. We've seen these on a number of them. There was one though, I think it was on the next page actually. That was there. This is the one for me. Who was it here? David Morgan Kane of DMK. I'm so annoyed that I didn't use this sooner. That's always when I start paying attention to stuff, is when I start hearing suppliers, being deemed in that front, because it's so hard getting them to people to try new things and to use them well. So that when somebody comes back and said, I should have been using this years ago, is brilliant. Even though you didn't have it years ago, of course, but that's neither here nor there. So you must be very pleased then, guys, in terms of the way that this is progressing, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
What's your aspiration? Have you got any targets for the year ahead? Are you setting yourself any goals, or is it just to get as much land grab as you can at the moment?
I suppose the latter, really. It's scalable in as much as it's a SaaS model, isn't it, Leon? In terms of the onboarding, very straightforward. So
we've got all the foundation and structure there for it. People can either self-serve or have our team help them get on board and use it. So all the infrastructure's there. We've got a great roadmap of new things that are on the way on both lettings and sales, both on email and phone. So really, it's just now just trying to raise awareness of it. So like David's comment there, they can start taking advantage of the benefits it brings.
Excellent. And to try and help that land grab, let's see what we can do ourselves. You've been really, really kind here to put a deal out to all Kerfuffle members, I believe, a 50% discount off their first month's billing. So guys, obviously you've seen what these guys can do in terms of optimizing that whole lead management process there, saving time, doing more with less. This is exactly the opportunity to take out. So if you want to do that, just go to this big wonderful pink button here. I'm interested to contact me. We'll forward that on to Mike and Leon and the team, or just give us a ring and we'll give you your unique discount code to kick that off. And guys, do you want to just give them your domain as well, just so that anyone who wants to have a look at the website?
Yeah, it's www.agentresponse.co.uk. So search it in Google.
Perfect. Okay, gents, thank you very much for that. I feel like a lot more. Is there anything else we should know about the thing before we sign off today?
Just we've got a very exciting roadmap for it, and we keep using Knockdighton as the sandbox. And if it's good enough for Knockdighton, then we think there's a market for it. It's probably fair.
I love the idea there, Mike, that you're willing to put your own business up as the guinea pig. And, it feels like there's some sort of charitable recognition that needs to be done there. But that's wonderful, isn't it? Because actually then it does again show that, this point about agents doing prop tech, it means that MVP phase is, if it exists at all, it's so much, it's narrowed so much, isn't it? Because, you're not going to let it out to the wider public until, by wider public, I mean your peers in the industry, till you guys have satisfied it's working for you.
Spot on.
The only other thing to mention perhaps is on the website is the blog. So we're just starting to release wider articles that can help agents in terms of how to use their data, how to plug into things like MailChimp, or the marketing techniques that Mike and his team are really living and breathing. So on there, if they check back at the blog, they'll get really lots of useful information.
Excellent, guys. You heard that again here today. Go to the blog, and look, sounds like a wonderful resource. If you ever want to share any of those with us, Leon, just knock them over and we'll happily share them out as well on our own little pink site as well. Right, guys, thank you very much for that. Feel like I know a lot more about it. Obviously, anyone in the industry, I don't know, potentially is overwhelmed with business at the moment. Feels like you should be giving these guys a phone call. So, Mike, Leon, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Cheers, Simon. Thank you.
Cheers. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.